Hey! Welcome back to Friends Who Want You to Win.
Yes, in this episode today, we are going to talk to you guys about how our personality traits shape our reality.
What a great topic.
It is a great topic. Actually, you're about to see. If you're somebody that feels like you want more out of life, if you're looking for something different, maybe you feel stuck, maybe you got regrets, or if you just want to embrace a better version of yourself, we're about to get into it.
We are. So in this episode, we're going to talk about what is personality, can you change your personality, and how will it actually affect your life experience? Do you actually believe it impacts our life outcomes, Ari?
This is a tricky one. This is like rooted in the conversations of nature versus nurture and fixed versus mutable and all those sorts of things, which is like, do I actually have control over anything in my life, or am I just at the whim of destiny, right? Because that's what it's based in. Your personality, we think about it as something that we're born with, right? You come out who you are. You act the way you do, you look the way you do, and we kind of feel like it's stuck with us forever.
Yeah, we think it's fixed. It's permanent.
Totally.
It's who we are. And we do not think that we can change any aspect of it. But I feel like once you realize that there are so many possibilities of who you can become, and it sounds so crazy, and it's up to you to almost detach a little bit, which we'll get into. You can like almost explore a whole different side of yourself that you didn't even know existed, right? But it comes back to like the key question of, do we consciously actually agree with our personality traits? Do we actually agree and make that who we are? Like, how does it even form?
Yeah, and this is something, I feel like this conversation today is for people who have something in their life or from themselves that they kind of want a little bit more of. Maybe they feel like they're stuck in a certain way. Maybe they feel like they want something different. Sometimes we're stuck in the past. We regret past decisions or whatever the case may be. You have some experience that you had a moment of and it shaped who you are and you can't really get past it. And it is about asking ourselves, do you agree with those things? Because they feel stuck. They feel like a part of, it's just who I am, right? That's what we claim. It's like, this is who I am.
What is personality, though? What is personality? If we had to define it, we found something on the internet to define it. Personality refers to the enduring characteristics and behavior that compromise a person's unique adjustments to life, including major traits, interests, drives, values, self-concept, ability, and emotional patterns.
Dang, that's your whole everything. That's your whole, that's the whole kit and caboodle right there. That's the whole entire thing. You know what's interesting? The phrase that you use is the adjustment to life, right?
Yes.
And that's kind of the key that we're pulling out, because it's like, it is that you are born with certain things, right? Your parents say, oh, you've been like that since you were a little person. You know, you've always been that way or whatever. But there are pieces of ourselves that we add on to the layers of the onion, if you will. We bring those experiences along with us, and they form more complexities to our personality. So you might start out some way, but your adjustments to life create different adjustments around who you are, and those things become a part of your personality. They're not always, that's just who I am. They're kind of these additions to who you started with. And sometimes you got to take a pause and look at it and be like, what kind of additions have I put on to this house? What things have I added on? Or do they look good? Is it cute? Do I like it? Yeah.
And people, like, you can let go of certain personality traits. You can let them die, right? You can totally let them, like, you can move forward. You can change being. Believe it or not, if you're, and also a lot of people use personality traits as an excuse, right? Oh, I'm just a shy person, right? And it's like, you have the choice if you want to keep being shy. You have the choice of, like, and we'll talk about, like, the actions that you need to take in order to, like, almost combat that identity trait that you've attached yourself to. But remember that you do have a choice if you want to be a shy person or a confident person or whatever else traits that resonates with you, you know?
And even those things you feel like you were born with are still fluid throughout your lifetime. Even if you were always shy, as long as you can remember, I've been a shy person. Well, do you like that? Is it helping you? Is it hurting you? Could it be different? Would you feel better about yourself if you expressed yourself differently? Do you like it? You know? Because you have the power to change it. And this is something we're talking about today, which is maybe something that a lot of us have never realized before, that you actually have this kind of control over your personality. You're able to, it is mutable, it is changeable. It's something that you can affect. And we can show you how.
But it's also something that you agree on, right? So it's like the concept of self-agreement, like choosing to embrace or reject. When you choose to embrace or reject certain traits, like you're choosing to be the shy person, or you're choosing to be like, oh, you know, that's not who I am, which often you hear too, right? People will actually take themselves away from certain experiences because they don't feel like they fit, their personality fits that moment, right? And that's why, in my belief, a child is vulnerable to creating personality agreements from outside influences, right? Because the child often looks to adults, and adults will often say, you shouldn't be be way.
Yes.
And then the child agrees to that. We all heard that. Right? And then the child agrees to that and carries it on throughout their whole adulthood as who they are.
Yep. And when you think about that, how many things can you pick out that were personality traits, that were things, like you just said, that were influenced by somebody around you when you were a little person, you know? How many things was somebody telling you, oh, you shouldn't be that way? Or, I mean, there are phrases for it, right? Children are meant to be seen and not heard. What kind of personality traits do we form from somebody who really instills that type of mantra in us when we're in our foundational years, right? You don't have a fully developed prefrontal cortex. You don't know all the things that are going on. Consciousness is still forming all of this, and it really shapes your personality.
Yeah,
it's very
100%.
impactful.
100%. I think one of the things that I had to let go of being a kid, which goes with like kids are not meant to be seen, not heard, is I was not, like, there was not a lot of room for me to be anything else than happy Soleil. So that was my personality, bubbly, happy. And I remember, like, I didn't allow myself to experience the plethora of emotions that are out there, whether it's sad or angry. And because it wasn't part of my personality, so I kept shoving everything down. Like, every time I got sad, I just let it pass. Every time I got angry, I just would hold it all in because I didn't want to express it, because I already had this personality of being happy Soleil, which took a long time to like get rid of, because that was a very damaging mindset. We all need all of the emotions, you know?
Yes, but it's ingrained in you, and you learned everything around that context, right? So you uphold that personality standard that someone else put you under.
And you have to kind of accept that someone else, what you just said, you have to accept that someone else put that standard on you. Yeah. Which is so crazy because you have such a commitment. You have a commitment to it.
Boy, sometimes it's not even conscious. You truly believe that's who I am. Someone sold you on that idea of that thing. You don't even question, is this me? It's just become so ingrained. Now, luckily, you had an experience where you kind of found your way. I mean, that's one of the reasons we're having the conversation here, because we're in that awareness, right? We've gone through that process. When you were realizing that about yourself, when you realized, like, oh, I have this kind of, it's like a happy complex, right? Like,
it really was. I'm just always supposed to be light. I'm supposed to be light and happy and not making anyone uncomfortable and not being angry, not being sad, not being anything. just being happy all the time.
Was it intimidating for you to acknowledge that you had all these other parts of yourself that you weren't living into? Like, how do you deal with that? Because then you're like, uh-oh.
You know what's
Don't let
so
anyone
crazy?
find out.
You know what's so crazy? Because of Happy Soleil, I had such a hard time being vulnerable with other people. I had such a hard time of like telling people how I actually feel, right? So, and then I was realizing that I had no really authentic friendships or relationships because everybody had this like I put on that everyone had the expectation of me being happy and whatever. And the thing is, when you change your personality trait, you have your personal reality change as we go through. So my friends changed, my dynamic changed, everything changed around me. But it was felt like as I was letting that go, it felt like a part of me was dying. It was hard.
Totally.
You feel like a part of you was like dying. You're mourning that part of you, and almost, you know.
And that's so interesting, is why it's important to be aware of these things. Like, am I agreeing to things that I don't actually agree with? What is that personality agreement that you formed? And what are the layers that form around it? Because like you said, okay, so I had this personality trait that was a compensation that somebody else like gave to me. It's like, you should be like this. And then what happens is your whole world ends up forming around it. Your reality forms around these traits. And like you said, then you're like, all my friends were friends with that version of me, which actually wasn't a true self. It was this creation of what I thought someone else wanted me to be. And so then you look around and you're like, oh, everything is tangled up. Just because I wasn't creating initially from this true version of myself, I've added all these layers of false. Everything is false, you know? The friendship isn't even real because people only love that version of you. And then when we change, we see what happens. People are like, oh, you so, you're different
what
now.
happened to you?
Yeah, you don't act the way you used to.
And you know, like, yeah, that's so true. But I was, you know, actually, it's so funny because going back, it's like I took on that mindset. I took on that personality trait. Then it impacted, as you said, every area of my life. But I kept actively, unconsciously, actively agreeing to it all the time. Yeah. I kept putting myself in situations where I had to be Happy Soleil.
Yes. But that's because that becomes our comfort zone. That's where we attract from, right? I that's all I know, so I'm actually unconsciously bringing that type of person around who wants that from me because 100%. That's what you like growing yourself into. Yeah, so it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You have to actually like cut the cord in a way, right? You have to make a very strong self-agreement towards something else. You have to be like,
and a whole like you have to change your belief because underneath the personality trait is a belief. Like whether you know it or not, whether you're conscious of it or not, there is a belief under there. Under Happy Soleil was people aren't gonna love me if I'm not pleasant in that way, right? So that was the belief that I was holding that created this personality trait that created the reality around me. You know, but was that true? No. And it took a while to shift. Took a while to, you know, maybe leave the people that wanted Happy Soleil and maybe have stronger relationship with people that can handle when Soleil is uncomfortable and we have uncomfortable conversations and we grow together. And I really realized what a real friendship is or relationship. I realized what that was. Because of that breakthrough, because I was ready to let go of this agreement from the belief that I had ingrained inside of me.
So the tricky thing there is that people agree to this lie, and it happens sometimes before you're even conscious, right? You can be a little itty-bitty person, you don't even know what's going on. And then because of that, you have all of these kind of tangled parts of yourself, but it's very hard when you're in it to see what you're in, right? So
Facts.
it's you can't identify the lie sometimes. Like, you don't know how to trust yourself. You don't know what's true or what not. You don't know, will they actually love me because will they actually not love me or will they love me because you believed it for so long. It has become that version of truth for you, right? And so if you go back and listen to our episode before this, we talk about personal responsibility and how to take accountability for yourself. And this is a tip for, if you resonate with what Soleil was just speaking about, this is a tip for you where you can start with taking responsibility for yourself. I can't affect whether or not you're going to lose love for me. And when I externalize that, I'm externalizing my love. I'm saying I'm only valuable if I receive love for you. Take responsibility for getting love. Give it to yourself first. And then when you start that process of untangling, you're able to see yourself from the outside. You're having awareness now where you're like, wow, I was trying to get love from all the wrong places when I actually had it right here all along.
100%. And what I realized, going back to that first episode with personal responsibility,
yes,
I, in general, as this version of myself, even though I had a lot of people around me, I was lonely. I was going through so much alone. And I was like, how do I have all these people around me that love me, but I'm lonely? Why do I feel that way? And instead of saying it's everyone else's fault, pointing fingers at the world, I had to point the finger at myself and say, what am I not getting from what am I not putting into my friendships and relationships that's causing all of this? And then I had that whole breakthrough of like, girl, you lack vulnerability sometimes. Like, you're not really willing to like let people know what's going on in your mind and your spirit and your heart. How are people ever going to connect with somebody that isn't honest, to be honest, like isn't real,
Oof, I feel you on that one. We have our different places we came from, but we were arriving at the same destination, girl. Certainly at the same place.
Yeah, so yes,
it's hard.
It's very difficult, but it's a good example of seeing how like a personality trait can really, you embody it so much.
Yeah.
That you start agreeing and behaving and then creating that it's such a clear image of like personality and personal reality. Like this is an example, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And if you look at those things, you have to look at those beliefs, and like we were saying, you have to ask if they are a representation of your authentic self. Really feel, how does this feel to me? Because even though you might be stuck in that layers of the onion, you might still be believing the lie that you've been telling yourself for a long time. We always kind of know it feels a little bit funky, right? And so if you really tune in and ask yourself and let you be vulnerable to you don't have to be vulnerable to anybody else to start. Just start here. and I've been through it, so I feel you. You gotta start somewhere. Ask yourself, like, are these the things that are my truth? Because if you want to change your life, this is where you have to start. You have to challenge yourself around, what have I been doing? How have I been acting? And how has it been contributing to the outcomes that I'm having? Am I really into this or not? Do I like this is who I am or not?
And so with the personality, with like identifying if you like it or not, a lot of the times you could see the personality traits in the people around you that had the biggest impact on you. You could see other family members and friends display the personality type that looks very similar. It doesn't have to be exact. Looks similar to yours, and you could see their outcome. If you step back, you can. Because I think about like I have a very clear family member who doesn't like confrontation, makes everybody happy. I know exactly where I got the mold from. I was influenced, but where I got that where I got that mold from. You could see it. If you're very present and you take a look back on like everyone around you, you can see it around. You could see it. You could see what the personality trait is.
And the thing is, those people don't even have to be blood relatives, right? These
No,
are
they
just
don't.
people who have been around you in your formidable years. We have these ages 0 to 7 are the years of impact. It's when your consciousness and your brain development is having the most activity in your life. It continues after 7, right? But it's that time when you are sponging the world around you at the highest level. And if you look at those people that were around you during that time, I mean, if we think about our parents, whoever was around you, your parents, your grandparents, your auntie, your siblings, maybe a close friend or whoever, and those people, we share traits in common with them. You can identify those. I could list out 10 things right now, whether you like it or not, that you share with those people. We could look at our parents and be like, "Ooh,
I have that one."
took that one on."
And it's
Do
not
I like
to make
it
them
for me?
wrong.
Right,
Yes.
for me,
There we go.
do I like it
There we
or
go.
not?
Exactly. It's not to make them wrong. You want,
Yes.
when you see people, you take the good, you leave the bad, right? It's not to make them wrong. It's just exactly what you said, Ari. Do I want this?
Yes.
Do I want, and there's some personality traits that it doesn't have to all be bad. There's some personality traits that you see from other people where you're like, ooh, I kind of have this, and I could see how it's working out for them. So I'm going to continue like building on that. Like that's also something to be aware of.
But that's a great tip, is to look at their personality trait and then look at the outcome that it's creating for them, right? Because it can also clue you in when you're having a difficult time looking at yourself from the outside in. You can tune into that and be like, okay, well, I can assume that if I'm acting the same way, I'm creating some sort of similar outcome in my world, even if I can't suss it out yet.
Yes, 100%. And 100%. So with the theme today, we should quote our, an amazing human being, Joe Dispenza, right? Your personality creates your personality.
Google him.
Yeah, if you don't know, definitely. He has wonderful books. Oh my, his books are like phenomenal. So definitely put some effort into Googling him. And he actually really dives into this topic of like understanding how your personality is creating your personal reality. That's his quote, but he really goes and dives into that as well.
Yes. Yeah, so, and what that means, if you break down, your personality creates your personal reality, right? So it's like the way that you think, feel, and act are the things that are impacting the world around you on a daily basis. It's very basic, but we kind of don't take time to actually think about it or realize that everything that you're choosing is always creating an outcome. Whether or not you're aware of what you're creating, you're always creating. Right? So if I actually I had a workshop last week with middle school with our girl group. I loved it. We did this exercise where they do a compliment circle. We love the compliment circle at Equality Education. And they each held a piece of string as they passed a compliment to someone around the group. And at the end, we have this web of interconnectedness where you see that the words and the energy that you've given to someone created a ripple effect that they then shared with someone else, shared with someone else, shared with someone else. And so you see the thoughts, feelings, and actions, even though you might feel isolated, you might feel lonely. Everything you're doing is creating an impact in your reality. And what are the things that you're choosing? What are those things?
What are those things?
It's making an impact in your external world, and what are those internal traits that you can actually have some control over?
And it gives you so, believe it or not, like, I know it sounds so scary, but it gives you so much power. It gives you, there's a range of possibilities that, there's many possibilities of who you can become and what you can experience from what you become. So when you understand that your personality, the traits you take on, the things that you say about yourself, the actions that you commit to really does have an impact on your reality, you can literally make anything work. I will say, you can make anything happen. Okay, This
Yep.
really and then at Equality Education, we have a quote that says the things you think and say about yourself will end up coming true. So really sit on that, right? It's the things you think and say about yourself will end up coming true. Now, personality traits often come from experiences, often come from inner thoughts that we have, and what we say out loud to the world, because then we start behaving that way. And when we behave that way, we're almost co-creating with life, right? You're putting in the effort to create the experiences that happen. So just remember, the things you think and say about yourself will end up coming true.
We've got that on our designs. We have a beautiful piece of artwork that goes with that. It's in our books. We've got posters and everything. Yep. Sometimes people come and read that and they're like, I'm not ready for that.
I don't know about that one. Let's stop.
And it starts with personal responsibility, right?
Yeah.
And like we said in that last episode, go listen if you need some tips on starting with personal responsibility, because that is where everything comes from here. We have to be able
100%.
to take honest looks at ourselves, and you have to be able to say to yourself, you don't have to say it out loud yet, I want to change this. It's a big thing to admit.
You have to have that first episode is about accountability. This episode right here is about creation. What are you creating? Like, that's what we're talking about today. Like, what are you creating? And understanding, you have to understand how you're creating before you start creating, So definitely that's what it is today. So, yeah.
One of the things I love that Joe Dispenza breaks down, we can't take credit for this even though I love it, I talk about it all the time, is he actually gives the breakdown of how a personality trait is formed, right? Mm-hmm. So if we look at this, again, there are some things that happen when you were little and someone else influenced you and we just became, this is who I am. And you don't remember the process of that happening because you were in those 0 to 7 years, you were super influential, it just happened. There are also personality traits that get formed around those core traits and values and beliefs. And those additional personality traits, they start with an experience that we have. Actually, those early ones, this happened too, but you just don't remember it. But maybe you could think of one. They started with an experience that you have. The experience rubs you a type of way. It gives you a feeling. Mm-hmm. And that feeling gives you a mood towards what just happened. Right? Mm-hmm. And that mood, if you don't have a resolution or you don't have something that makes you feel a different way about it after feeling that one type of way, good or bad, it sticks with you. That mood sticks with you. And when you have a mood that sticks with you for a long period of time, you carry it with you and you don't change your mind about it, it becomes a mindset. It becomes a belief. And it becomes, drum roll, a personality trait. And so you have now become, this is who I am. But it all started with you having an experience that made you feel a type of way about something and you just carried it with you. You never changed your mind. You didn't resolve it. It didn't turn into something else. And now it becomes a piece of who you are. And that is what shapes your personal reality. That is the thing that you start creating from. Your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions revolve around that belief, that mindset, that personality trait, and it forms the world around you that you respond to.
100%.
That's kind of crazy, right?
That's kind of wild. I love that breakdown because then you could really see how it goes from point A to point B. And I guess if people don't run away from the experiences that had the most impact on them, they could really honestly understand the effect of it. It's like a cause and effect system, right? Where it's it's totally a cause and effect. So
but
I love that.
It shows you where you have power, right? Yeah. It shows you where you can intercept the process and decide for it to go a different way. Mm-hmm. Because you're in control of each of those steps. It's just having that awareness about it. Yeah. And so what I see is one of the things is that people will have, more often than not, we have a lot of great experiences, but those things seem to get overshadowed by the things that we dislike because we're humans.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
Wait, can we just pause in there? Because That's the truth. That's such the truth. Like, people tend to highlight things that did not go well, and then the million things that went well, they just totally forget about, right? That's so true. All right, continue. I love that point.
Gratitude. Have
Gratitude. Come on.
Yes. And so those things, like, you might have an experience, and you might have that experience that went really well, and it might form a part of you that is empathetic and compassionate and kind and, you know, whatever, grateful. But in those moments that we have something that was an experience that we might feel stuck around, or it's something that we regret, that's what your brain gets really, like, it gets that cycle around it, right? Yep. You ruminate, you think about it again and again. Like, you're like, oh my gosh, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Why did I embarrass myself? Why did it turn out that way? Whatever it is. And really what we need to do is eventually move on from that thing. But if you have formed a personality trait around it, you're just recreating the same situation again and again in your reality.
And over again. Over and over and over again. And you can be like, I'm so tired of this, but you're the one that keeps making it happen. I know that's so crazy.
Everyone can resonate with this.
Everyone. But you know what it is? It's because it's similar to what we said last time, but people never attach it to their personality traits. They never, ever in their life attach it to the personality traits creating.
Something I'm doing.
Yes. Creating these outcomes. They never, ever do that. Yeah. Totally.
And even if you think it's something that you did literally, like experience-wise, you still don't attach it all the way back to the personality. No. Which is the root cause. We love to do root cause at a quality education, because that's where you get the transformation. Period. Kick you in the butt.
Period.
And so the thing that has been helpful, at least for the things we've shared with each other, Soleil, is that we hold that space and grace towards ourselves to acknowledge that those things that happen, they had lessons and blessings built into them at the time. Yeah. You might have been a person for a certain amount of time because it was serving you. It was protecting you, right? It was keeping you safe. It was helping you learn, like, whatever it was in the world. We needed it at that time. But when you start to feel that friction and you're like, this is no longer serving me, have the honesty to acknowledge that and let it go.
Let it go. Let it go. That's a fact. Let it go. Yes, let it go. Yeah. I love that.
I had a really intense situation years ago that was super unfortunate. But I had so many lessons and blessings built into it, you guys.
That's how it goes.
That I only realized many years later because it was super intense at the time. So I had a situation, it was an assault. Unfortunately, it was in my house. It was where I live, and in my neighborhood and in my house. And the situation, and it was like an intruder situation. I won't go into all the details, but what happened was, and there's this police and investigation and grand jury trial, is the whole nine.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. And very unfortunate. And I was young at the time. So what happened was, after the fact, I noticed myself, because the situation really shook me up. The whole thing was crazy. It wasn't extreme violence, but had elements of violence in it, and was certainly super accosting to me and everything. And afterwards, what I realized was kind of the things that you see that are formed from PTSD, right? So certain situations that were similar to what that situation was would trigger that exact feeling state that I was in when that thing happened to me. So I had an experience. It shook me up. I didn't get a resolution. I didn't get a chance to change those feelings that I had. They stuck with me and they became a mood. And then I noticed it becoming a mindset, right? So it was a mood where when a similar situation would happen, I would have the same feelings. And then I noticed it becoming a mindset because I'm like, checking over my shoulder, bro. Like, I'm like clocking everybody. I'm suspicious. I'm fearful. I'm having all these traits come up that aren't me.
You.
They're not Ari. Like, that's
Yeah,
not
they're
who
definitely
I
not
am.
you.
They're not me, right?
They're not you, yeah.
They're not. And I saw myself changing. These were my early days of self-awareness, but I had enough self-awareness to intercept the process. And I looked at myself and I was like, girl, you have to change. You have to decide to feel differently, because the reality of what happened is not going to change. It's not going to. I can't sit around and hope that this man ends up in jail. I can't count on that. I have no control over that. The only thing I have control over is myself, is me being able to affect my decision of how I feel. So I went through this whole process myself, and what I was able to do was to be like, I don't want to feel fearful. I don't want to walk around watching my shoulder. I don't want to do these things. And I decided to not take those things on as personality traits. Had I not done that,
Girl,
I would have formed a sense of self based around that one extremely disturbing situation that happened to me in my life, and the rest of my reality would have been rooted in those elements that I formed based off of that experience.
Well, first, applaud to you for just taking such a challenging moment and literally growing from that, because a lot of people really do get stuck, right? And because a lot of life happens, and there are some moments that are very unfortunate, and a lot of individuals, they get stuck and they become a personality trait. They embrace a personality trait from those moments, and then they don't realize that they're going to be suffering so much in their life because of their newfound perspective. And it's not that you ignore it, you learn from it, but you can't live your life always looking over your shoulder, right? Because then it's going to impact all the other areas of your life, right? So applaud to you for that, because people are so afraid to look at those moments and what they learned from it. They're so afraid to, they're stuck in the middle. Yeah, they avoid it. They're stuck in the middle, but they're not willing to be like, I'm going to get my power back. I'm going to get my life back. Like, it's not about the other person. It's really about me. I'm going to get my life back from this situation. And it's hard. It's difficult. It's not an easy process. That's for sure. You know?
That literally just gave me chills when you said that, because that was the exact thing that happened. I felt powerless in the situation. I felt like it always had a grip on me. It had control over me. And I was suffering in all these different areas of my life because of that feeling. And I had to, it was driving me crazy. I had to take my power back, but it's a conscious decision, and you have to go through wildly uncomfortable. People have been through extremely intense situations, and the way to take your power back is to face those things that are really much easier to avoid.
And to think about, what did I take on from those things? And that's hard. That's hard. That's so hard. As you were saying it, I was thinking about like flashbacks of like moments where I've had to let go of a personality trait that I've had from negative experiences, right? And it's hard because your ego wants to be like, you know, your ego, nothing's wrong, nothing's up with me, nothing, you know, look at your face right now. Like, nothing, you know, whatever, you know, but you really have to look in that mirror, especially in those traumatizing situations, especially in those moments, because you don't want to be stuck and then you suffer, everyone else suffer because of what a jerk did. I had really more inappropriate words, but there's no cursing on this podcast. But you know
so
that,
polite.
like the this, but I did. You know, it's you're taking your power back. You know, and you took your power back. I think that's what I love. Like, you really took your power back. I love that.
Thank you.
I challenge the listeners to write down your most impactful moments, good or bad, right? Like, Write down all of the moments that really that you remember had such a lasting impact on you. Write down the people around you that have had a lasting impact on you. And then really write down what you learned from it. And how maybe what you took from that experience that maybe you are projecting into the world right now, right? Because it's like we all have to look at those. If the power is looking back at those moments and seeing how that impact us and seeing how our personality is formed, or even how we describe ourselves. How do you describe, all right, how do you describe your personality?
Oh gosh, that's such a good question, actually.
Yeah, like how do you describe your personality?
That's such a good question. Yeah. Well, for me personally, well, the thing that I saw was I usually have a very big presence that I bring, and I like being big and boisterous with
It's
people.
the Leo.
It is the Leo. It is. It's the main in full effect.
You can relate. Yes.
But I like it. I like sharing like bigness with people, right? I like when
Yes.
other people feel big about themselves, and I like to exchange that with people. And that was an example of something where I saw myself shrinking my light. I saw myself not wanting to take up space. I didn't want people to notice me. You know, a Leo loves to be noticed. I love to be noticed. It's my bread and butter.
Yes. Like, Ari doesn't want to be noticed.
Right.
What? Yes.
And we know those red flags. Like,
Yes.
that's what I was saying before. Like, your intuition will always tell you when you're on or off course. And that's such a good thing that you just called the listeners to do, is to, like, take a moment and think about those big life experiences you've had. And sometimes you might have had like a simple conversation with a mentor, and it was like, and you like instantly adapted a new way of seeing things that actually developed you and was a beautiful trait you took on. Maybe they gave you some life advice, and it became a characteristic of yours, and it changed the rest of your life, you know?
I've had a couple of those moments, that's for sure.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And sometimes they're hard. They're not always great, but you have to look at those things. We don't look at what our personality is, you know? And your personality is, how do I want to feel, and how do I want to affect people and my life around me?
Yeah. And like you have the power to create it, right? And you, just like what you were saying earlier about like embracing your authentic self, I've always wanted to be the person that I am today. Like I always wanted to be expressive and honest and vulnerable and secure. Like I've always wanted to be the person where, like, you know, it was an authentic happiness, not because people are, and I always wanted to be the person that can cry when something happens, or can, you know, be upset or angry or whatever. Just when it's, you know, but it took me realizing who I
Like, I wish I could not feel shy, or I wish I could, right? And so what it comes down to, because we all have those things, especially with social media, you can sit and compare yourself to people all day.
All day.
Comparison is the joy of thief. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Please.
I mean, what did I just say? Comparison is the thief of joy.
Joy.
No,
I got it.
Joy. It was snatch it. Don't do it. But the idea is, like you were saying, like, you can actually see that in somebody else, and you can be like, oh, wow, this is something that I would love to have people see in me. I think it would feel really good to me. Usually when we're attracted to something, it's something that's for you.
Yeah, 100%.
Right?
But you need to put yourself in uncomfortable situations and trust that your brain and your brain, your body, everything, your mindset can adapt to it. So this is what I mean, right? You ever hear that, like, when, like, for example, the shy person, they often say no to going out. They're like, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go to the event that, people are actually going to talk to me. But you need that event for people to talk to you, for you to feel more secure, for you to embrace a new trait. You know, like, you need that. And believe it or not, your brain has the ability to adapt in any situation. You know, there's something called neuroplasticity, right? We talk about it all the time, Ari, where it's your brain's ability to change and adapt by forming new connections between brain cells. You have to put yourself in situations that challenge you so you can allow your brain to form new connections, which will ultimately form a new perspective on your life and form new personality traits.
Yes.
Right? But it's all about what you choose. You have to choose to challenge yourself. The thing that you're used to saying no to, try saying yes.
And people don't do that. I mean, we avoid that for a lifetime.
Yeah.
You avoid that for a whole life. You avoid it.
100%.
It's like, oh, I'm not going to do that thing that makes me feel uncomfortable, makes me feel insecure, it makes me feel bad about myself, it makes me feel unsure or not knowledgeable. But that is the root. This is what we talk about in quality education. Get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable, yeah.
When you 100%. Find that place, right? When you find that place where you are trying something new, I don't know anything about this. It's like, what's the worst that can happen? You know? You talk to somebody and you might have a socially awkward moment or whatever. We've all had those.
We've all had them.
We've all had those.
We've all had them.
Yes.
It's just your turn.
Right. You've been shy for way too long.
Yeah, 100%.
And this is like when they tell you, like, neuroplasticity, it refers something as simple as, you brush your teeth with the left hand and when you're usually brushing it with the right. Right? Mm-hmm. It forms these new synapses in your brain. It forms these new connections, and you're able to have a skill or an experience or a personality trait that you did not have before. But you have to
100%.
Open yourself to that in the first place for it to happen.
100. My dog is clearly agreeing. So my dog is clearly agreeing to the situation. She's having a little separation anxiety, but she also is agreeing.
Oh my gosh.
But you ever, right? So I don't know if you ever seen this movie, Ari, but the movie Yes Man.
Totally.
Have you heard? Okay.
Absolutely.
This is such a great
example
of how your experiences and your choices lead to your personality traits and, life outcomes, right? Yes. So I remember watching that movie as a kid and being so like, oh wait, that's how the world works. Not saying that you can go out and say yes to everything. Don't put yourself in dangerous situations, right?
Don't be Jim.
Don't be for real. Don't be Mr. Carey in the movie, okay? But when he was saying, so when he got went to the conference and then he got kind of told you only have to say yes, all of a sudden he met his new girlfriend. He went to a Harry Potter party. He got all these new experiences, these new friends, these new almost a different way of looking at life because he just said yes.
Yep. That one
just because he said yes. So many people block their life with no, 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 because they're going by the personality traits and their own beliefs of who they are. And it's like, no, that thing is coming to you for a reason. That thing is coming to you because you don't know what's going to happen at that. If he would have never it was so crazy because I remember, like, I'm sorry if I'm quoting this wrong, but I remember he, like, helped a homeless person drive down, didn't have gas, went to the gas station, ended up meeting his future girlfriend at the gas station, but he was so mad or whatever. And it's like, those trail of experiences led him to new outcome. And you just gotta say, sometimes you just gotta be like, yes, that wasn't really where I was gonna, F it, but yes. Why not? Why not? You'll feel it. And if you're uncomfortable, go with it. Go with it.
Yes.
That
is the thing that tells you that it's something that you should be pushing yourself to do. And people will say, oh, I could never, right? That's what people are like, oh, I could never. That's not for me. I could never do that. And what we're challenging you is ask yourself why.
Why?
When you would answer something like, I could never, why?
Yeah, why?
Because you could. Like, you could jump out of a plane if you want to.
Period. Period.
So the question is, if you could change one trait to transform your life, what would it be? If you had one thing.
That's an interesting question. That's the audience. I hope you are thinking about it, because think about, and I guess, like, you can also think about an area that needs to be changed, right? Because there's a personality trait that goes with it. So think about that question, right? If you could change one trait to transform your life, what would it be? I know what mine was. Mine was, like, to be bold and to just be, like, because, like, I do embrace parts of Happy Soleil still, but, like, get me on, Ari, when we're working on a project together, we are focused, we are honest, we are loud, we are straightforward. I loved people that were straightforward, and I wanted to have that in my life. So I totally brought that into my life, being straightforward, So
I have to think of what my answer would be. One trait.
I don't know if I have anything right now.
I've been working. Yeah, I'm like, I've been working on, I pulled all those things out and I work on them all the time.
Yeah.
One thing I had a personality. What?
Yeah, what was something that you changed?
Yeah, one that I had that I would get a lot of feedback about is true to my Leo ways. That I, in the past, have had a personality trait, because I did it everywhere all the time and I thought it was the truth, of being very defensive and always having to be right about things. And that was something that I really had to work on, because the root of me, the personality trait, was being defensive. And the root of that, as it all is for anybody who has a personality trait in something, it's buried much deeper in the meaning of why I'm actually acting that way. Right? So me being defensive was buried in all of these insecurities and all this type of stuff.
The belief.
Everything. My belief about my self-belief. And and you do have to untangle those things to be able to... I knew I wanted to change them, because I had people around me that were giving me feedback where they were like, this is not okay when you act this way. And so you get to a point where you're like, oh, I gotta do something about that. I don't want to, but I really love this person and I don't want them to leave me because I didn't have the courage to face myself. So,
shout out to the people that keep it real. Shout out to the...
Please. Yes, but those are the people that you should have around you, right? Like those friends who, we all outgrow those relationships that are people that just keep it nice, right? Like, nice doesn't get us anywhere.
Right?
We need to be real. I would much rather you had a moment with me where I was uncomfortable because you gave me feedback that I needed to hear. And it's the first time, I remember first times I've had feedback about my personality, and I was like, that's not, being defensive. I was like, that's not me. I'm not that. I'm not having a problem. You're not having a problem with me having a problem. It's not a problem. And it was like, no, girl. Like, sit down. Like, calm down. you need to look at this. And if that person didn't love me enough to be real with me, I would never be where I was today.
No.
And I love that. I would
That's
much rather go through that uncomfortable moment.
Yeah. So actually, if you take anything from this episode, honor the people in your life that do challenge you. Honor the friends who really want you to win. Not the ones that are just making you feel comfy and happy and feel whatever. The friends that will tell you, look, sis, this whole thing that you're taking on, this personality trait, it's not cute. It's not cute.
Yes.
You need to change something now. Because I'm letting you know so that we can build better together, or I want the best for you in your life, you know. So honor those friends who really want you to win.
Yes, we are here to celebrate the friends, the family, whoever it is, whoever they want you to win. They give you that is a form of unconditional love that is rare in the world. So you gotta hold on to that.
Period.
So. We have a process that we use.
Yes.
It works.
It works.
And a reminder of what we always strive to do at Equality Education, because we have these really deep conversations that are very confronting. And there are things that we've been avoiding for a lifetime, and we don't want to talk about it, and we don't want to look at it, and we don't want to admit it to ourselves, is actually your purpose here as a person while you are co-creating your life with yourself and everything around you and affecting your reality. This is supposed to be fun.
Yes.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
We're supposed to be having fun.
Yes.
I mean, life is filled with moments of joy and grief, and we get the whole spectrum of emotions, but Equality Education, emotions are meant to be felt, not hidden. Have fun with this process.
Creating your personality? You know what? If someone
gift.
tells you can create your personality. What?
It's a gift.
What?
Yes.
I be thinking about one of those 90s movies, like, you know, when Gabrielle Union's coming out with, like, a suit, like, with the skirt. I'm like, that's me, girl. That's me.
Yes.
A bad, you know. You know. Exactly. What are you embracing? This is fun. You're creating yourself. And then you're going to get new things from it. So follow this formula, because you're creating yourself, and then you're going to experience new things in this life from it. So, yeah.
Yes.
Love that.
We start with that self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
So, like the question we just asked, which is, go back to Soleil's prompt before, where you wrote down the things about different experiences that you've had and what they gave you, what blessings were in there, what lessons were in there. Pick out something in your life that you would like to be different. You want to change it. You want to upgrade it. Maybe you have a little bit of it and you love it and you want some more of it, right? So you got to pick something. That's where we start.
Exactly.
Be honest.
Be honest. Be very honest. Pick something. Because your second step is that you got to ask yourself, why do you want to change this? How is it impacting your life? Decide what personality traits of yours is affecting these external outcomes in your life. What is your why? Why do you want to change this?
So important. So important. And the why is what drives motivation, right? So in those moments when you're going to be faced with getting uncomfortable, because it's going to happen, you can't avoid it. Change always comes from being uncomfortable.
Period.
Is you need to have that why. Like, you need to be like, no, girl, because you're going to look like Gabrielle Union in the suit. So
Period.
we need to do this right now.
Hello.
Right? And then when you have that thing that you decided on, one of the things we love to use at Equality Education is affirmation. So you use an affirmation is just a strong statement of your belief in yourself in whatever direction of what you're looking to create. So if you were dealing with something, and we use it in the present tense. So whatever you're deciding on, like for example, for me, I was at a time working on being less defensive and not having to be right all the time, which is actually one of our quotes too. You know, I am becoming more open and receptive and letting go of the need to be right. So it's a simple I am statement that's in the present tense, where you know that you're still working on the thing, but you're like, this is who I am now. I'm still in the process of embodying it, but I am doing blank. I am becoming more patient and calm. I'm becoming more confident and outgoing.
Yeah, I'm becoming more straightforward. That was my whole thing. Be more straightforward.
Yes.
But this is also meant to battle any negative thought that you may have in your mind. Because as you are changing, your brain's going to want to go back to your old ways. It's going to want to get into that comfortable space. So you have to motivate yourself with your why and also with that affirmation to battle any negative thought of you can't be that way or this is not who you are or whatever comes into your mind. That's why you have the affirmation.
Yep, exactly. So you're going to actively use it in these moments. Like you're feeling shy in the corner at the party. I am more outgoing and I have fun, exciting conversations with new people I meet all the time. And you
100%.
remind yourself of that. And then you're like, oh, I'm about to go have a good conversation with somebody who's a stranger. Right?
Period.
And you push yourself out there to try that uncomfortable thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And next you have identify the traits you wish to embody in other people and make a list of the things you are attracted to in their personality trait. This is so important. If you can see it outside yourself of what you like, you can also be able to embody it. I know that this became like, I think for myself, it was important I had this powerful woman in my mind, someone that really just took care of themselves, someone that really just wore nice outfits and had the high heels and, just took care of themselves on a daily. That was my goal as a woman, to become as straightforward and a boss and that girl, you know what I mean? That girl,
that woman,
that was the goal. So I was able to almost adjust myself to become my most authentic self. Does that sound crazy? Right? Adjusting yourself. Go ahead.
You found it in a role model that you were like, I like that.
I remember seeing that first business owner. And she told me the ins and outs. And she was so fly. Wearing boots and coats. And, we'd be wearing boots and coats, Ari. Boots and coats. And she owned her own bar in Long Island. And I'm seeing her be an entrepreneur and in that state. And I'm like, man, I want whatever that feels like. So I adapted to my own version.
Yes.
Important. Love that step.
And look at how well it's working for you, by the way. Hello.
Period.
We are here by the way, we never will talk about a concept on this podcast that we are not actively incorporating and practicing ourselves in our lives. Just so you know. And we're not going to give you tips to try something that we don't know can actually work for you. So you can be that person that Soleil's talking about. She has the vision of the powerful boss woman who speaks her mind. Your vision might be something else, but make the vision.
Yes.
Go see what it looks like on somebody else. And like she said, write down the traits of that thing. And what are you attracted to about how they look and feel when you're around them?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And then,
last but not least,
practice.
Practice.
Right?
Put it in action. Try new clothes. Try new whatever. Practice small steps, right?
Have the conversation with the person even when you feel nervous, and stand up for yourself even when you're worried to speak your mind, and give someone else space to, take up room in the conversation even when you know in the back of your mind how right you are. You don't need to know. Just practice a new pattern. And a new pattern and a new habit, and you get used to doing those things again and again. And like we said, that process, those experiences turn into moods, turn into mindsets, turn into personality traits. And then you have transformed a part of who you are and how you affect your personal reality right before your very eyes.
Right before your very eyes. Look at that. You can do it. You are capable. Yes, you are capable.
If we can do it,
you can do it. Period.
Exactly.
Okay? Period. Yes.
I love that. And one of the things that we always remind, by the way, because this is so important when you are doing any type of personal development work, is that self-reflection is not self-criticism. We have to remember that every step of the way, because you're going to be so honest and raw and vulnerable. you need to remember that looking at yourself doesn't mean that you're wrong. Don't get stuck in the process of blame and regret and worry. Things are what they are, and the only thing that you can control is how you approach the moment right now, which affects every moment moving forward. So take back your power, like we talked about, and don't worry about the things that have happened. Just focus on your ability to create change for yourself and your personal reality right now. So we can reflect on ourselves, and we don't have to be wrong. It happened. Deal with it. Let it go.
Let it go. Let it go. Move on. Create a safe space for you to learn from that experience so that you can create something else moving forward, right? I always love the self-reflection is not self-criticism because it gives you so much space. It gives you space. It gives you breathe, you know? Give yourself grace, right?
You need it. Yes.
Necessary.
And share with us. We want to know what traits you're working on, and we want to know what new experiences you had when you were being a yes man or a yes woman or a yes person. And
watch the movie too. Watch the movie. I'm telling you. If you don't believe that this can work, watch the movie. See it in a different creative perspective, you know?
Yes. And that's an extreme example, but it is such a good starting point to start to look at your reality differently, where it's 100%. Actually filled with all of these possibilities that you have been programmed into not seeing. So start to see these things that are possible for yourself, and they all start with you just saying yes.
Yeah, that's it. All
yes
right.
to a new personality and personal reality.
For sure. Thank you for listening. And
always.
Keep us posted.
And we are your friends who want you to win.
Want you to win. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Friends Who Want You to Win, where we give you the everyday advice that you need to boost your self-confidence, build meaningful relationships, how to stop self-sabotage, and so much more.
Yes, but your story doesn't end here. If you are ready to break free from old patterns, step into your greatness, and take control of your life, our monthly membership is your next move.
Inside, you'll find life-changing tools, live expert guidance, and a community dedicated to supporting you to unlock your full potential.
So don't let fear or doubt hold you back. Reach out today for more info on why joining us will be the best decision you have ever made for yourself. Your greatness is waiting. Let's discover it together.
For more information on how to join, get in touch with us at www.theequalityeducation.com.